and that, just cosmic power are happening every single second. It is wild, wild stuff. Anyway, I love the eclipse. I love the eclipse for so many reasons. Number one, gives us a reason to look up, be together. Number two, it makes you think of math, and it makes you struggle to try to figure stuff out and understand how things work. And that need to understand those relationships is what allows us to do some pretty incredible things, like you and I talking right now. I mean, telecommunications, all these things, they are relatively new inventions in this evolution of humanity, and science and math have played a very big role in all of that. Hello, everyone. Hello, MS. Hello, Anthony Robledo. Everyone is welcome. And SML has been on best behavior. He hasn't told me to do a studio tour once today. It's been fantastic. Sid, hello, how are you? Max Columbus, great to see you. Lisa's on vacation because it's summertime and she deserves to be on vacation. Why am I so blurry? Let me refresh this real fast. There, am I blurry now? Am I blurry now? Am I blurry now? Oh well, I'll just stay here. This is the stream. This is the control room up there. That is New York. And no, SML, we are deep in conversation here. João, bom dia. Thought you had left since I didn't see you there yesterday. America's Smart Wall, another DSA. What is the topic, Sid? Well, this is the news. And in about 9 minutes, we're going to be talking very deeply about all things that happened today here in the United States and abroad. You're a bit quiet, Gotti. Oh, that's because we're kind of patching together some audio issues. Sometimes we're using this, sometimes we're using the iPad thing. Remember, the pre-show before the show is not the actual show, so it's a little bit technically loose, if you will. Summer cold, Binks a cat. I wish it was a cold. If it was a cold, it would have lasted maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. This is going on like 4 weeks now. Ryan, what are we thinking right now for the media? Ryan, is this your first time here? Because I hope it is. If so, you've stumbled upon quite the experiment. We are doing this thing, and we're doing it kind of in stealth, not making a big deal about it, but we're doing this thing where we have a news show that's going to start in 7 minutes, and it's going to look like an old traditional news show. We've got our studio here. We're going to be talking about all the different things that have happened throughout the day. But we got the comment section going, and I can read this comment section, and periodically I will glance down, and if I see a really good question about the topic that we're covering, or there's something you guys are asking and a correspondent might have the answer, I will connect that question to the correspondent or to the expert. It is reach out, touch, and feel the news. So that's what the plan is here. And we're streaming on TikTok, we're streaming on YouTube, we're streaming on Twitch. We've been experimenting with this for a little while. So it's a work in progress, and we love the little community that we've got here. MS says, I don't understand America's system. America's system for which part? Let's see, allergies. No, I don't. It sounds like it's a bacterial infection in my lungs is what the doctor thinks. So, I don't know. But we're working on it. I'm on antibiotics. Watching from the sweetest sides of Detroit, Michigan. Drina, hello. Great to see you. We're going to have Steve Patterson on in a little while, and he's from out there. He's great. He's one of the best. In fact, Steve Patterson is going to be anchoring on Friday, so you guys have to watch the show. He is amazing. You know he's amazing. Sorry, guys. Bob, watch a video on YouTube. I don't think we put that video together, so I cannot give it any sort of a recommendation. I have never seen it. I think you're on Facebook and Twitch too, Anthony. We're definitely on Twitch. I don't know about Facebook or Instagram. Maybe we'll get around to that too. Peace Bucks, we have the power. SML. No studio tour. You had like 7 already. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Friends for Good. Oh, are you new to the stream too? I'll look to that, Ryan says. Okay, really it all happens in 5 minutes here. So just give us 5 minutes. Again, this is just us chatting about the news today. I can tell you what we're gonna be starting with. I'm sorry, I will not cough on camera during the show. You'll see that, like, you know, we've got a control room. All of the real ones up there in the control room at 30 Rock, like they are hot on that mute button, and then they're hitting that mute button every time I go like this, and then I'm able to cough without people hearing it. It's a whole production, but here on the stream, we're just friends, so you guys are gonna have to hear the cough. Just like everybody that is listening to this mic out in 30 Rock. Tiki, you resemble Blippi? No, I don't. And also, like, Team Miss Rachel here for life in the world of Blippi versus Miss Rachel. Ray forever. If you know, you know. Would I ever grow a beard? I try. It doesn't come out well. Like, it comes in super patchy and it's weird colors and it's just not cool. Hawker. Oh, Hawker. Hey, we are going to be talking to you in just a little bit. Yeah, we're going to be talking to Hawker. He's got a great investigative report out of New Mexico about electronic warfare and the effects it could have on civilian flying, which is very alarming. There was an incident that happened a few months ago where a plane went down, a civilian plane went down, 4 people were killed, and it looks like there was some testing of jamming, GPS jamming going on in White Sands around that same time. So we're going to be looking into that. SML, you should go live on your own YouTube channel. Why? I work here and I love it. There's honey. I know. There's that cough. Candy or drinks or something. Friends for Good 270. Have you been to all 50 states? Oh, that is like that's kind of a mean question because I just came back from the East Coast. I thought I was going to rattle off the last 3. Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. Those are the last states that I have on my list. But I still have not visited those 3 states. All the other 47, I'm visited. Let's see. Thank you, Nikki. I will try to feel better soon. Let's see. My first time here. Indian Kid Rich. What's up? Welcome. Welcome to the community. Stay around. Look, in about 2 minutes, we're going to start the app show. So you guys will have, you'll be able to see everything that's going on. Come on, guys. I saw your YouTube channel. Let's see. Oh, yeah, a whole new government whistleblower. Do you ever do a segment on the teeth regrowing in Japan? I would like to do more on that. But yeah, it is crazy. They are doing some leading edge research on regrowing teeth. Like shark grow tons of teeth throughout their lifetime. I think 30,000 or so teeth fall out of their faces. So why can't we, right? Joseph, I'm number 8. Congratulations. Some green tea with lemon and ginger. Hey, did you hear that, Big Mike? Nikki says lemon and ginger. Big Mike just serves it straight. He just green tea straight in there. He makes a best green tea in Los Angeles. Okay, here we go. And Eclipse is fantastic. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about this, Biological War, Annie Jacobson. This book is terrifying. Her last book, Nuclear War, terrifying. This one is even more like nuanced. So we're going to be talking about that. And in 1 minute, okay, we should start getting nervous here. Big Mike is standing in. He's standing in position right here. He's standing right where we're going to be standing. He's checking the blocking. Robbie on the Ronin. What's the over-under on a cough during the broadcast, guys? What do you think? I'm not going to do it. We haven't done it yet. We haven't done it yet. Carbonated penicillin? Ugh, that sounds yikes. Let's see. Okay. That's why America's election system doesn't work? That's interesting. What's this show about? Okay, Indian Kid Rich. You're about to find out in 30 seconds. You ready? You guys ready? Okay, last cough. Here we go. Have a good show, Todd. Have a good show, everybody. Have a good show. 30 Rock. We're out here in the West Coast, Universal Studios, holding it down. We've got New York in the control room. And here comes the news of the day. All right. Here we go. 5 seconds. Have a good show, brother. Hey guys, I'm Gotti Schwartz, and tonight we start with deadly storms ravaging the Midwest. 3 people are dead, almost 1 million don't have power right now as destructive winds tear through homes. This is the aftermath of a house explosion in Indiana during the storms, which killed a woman in her late 80s. Also in Indiana, it was a 4-year-old boy who was killed when a tree fell on his home. Meanwhile, the storms killed another person in Ohio when flooding kept rescuers from getting to them in time. All this as millions are still at risk of furious storms and heavy floods from South Dakota to Tennessee. And that summer heat, it continues to boil over, hitting over 100 degrees in several parts of the country. A new report says July was the hottest it's ever been for the U.S. mainland. And let's go out to NBC's Maggie Vespa, who is in Cambridge City, Indiana. This is so much water behind you. What's going on there?
I know. I mean, Gotti, it's still rising, and the rain's been out of here for hours, so I can't imagine what this is going to be like here overnight. But I'll back up. You can see, for instance, this house over here, this brick one, it's been rising since we got here, so for a couple hours already. And then we're going to swing over here. You might have seen on nightly news, we showed people a stop sign that was sticking out of the water. That's gone now. That's totally submerged. You can see that green street sign above it. That's all that's left. We have debris floating around. There is a playground that's partially submerged. More homes back there. I mean, this is truly a disaster zone here in this small Indiana city. And it looks like this really across the state. We saw those water rescues throughout the day in Muncie and other places. Schools in that city in particular canceled their first day of school today because school buses couldn't make it through the rising water. This is truly a disaster that basically city officials and county officials and first responders tried to warn people about as it was happening. It was wild how fast this system came through and how fast this water rose, Scotty.
And I know a lot of those areas are used to massive storms, but how does this one compare to what they've seen in the past?
So today's rainfall set a record for today. They call it the daily record. So on August 12th, there has never been more rain, as long as the National Weather Service has been keeping track, than they saw today. Basically, in the last 36 hours, part of the state of Indiana had a foot of rain. And usually for the entire month of August, they have like a fifth of that. So this is 5 times what parts of the state normally see for the whole month. They got basically in the last day and a half or so. And when it's that saturated, as you know, that's when water can rise this quickly. And we've been talking to people here throughout the area who tell us this is the worst. Like, this is a low-lying area. Parts of this area flood, but this is the worst that they can remember ever seeing. And it kind of echoes what we heard yesterday about the storm system that roared through again yesterday. And we were on your show yesterday talking about this with those thunderstorms and those tornadoes tearing across the Midwest. It's like these severe weather events are just becoming that much more extreme, something that we know, scientists say, is tied to man-made climate change. As our climate warms, the atmosphere can hold more water and can dump more water a lot faster than it ever has before, leading to these massive, widespread, very dangerous flooding events, Scotty.
Yeah, a pattern we see play out in real life day after day. Maggie Vespa, thank you. Meanwhile, in Washington, we are learning more about that elaborate ruse and the presidential plane swap out that happened at a NATO summit in Turkey. Reporters asking today, President Trump, they asked him point blank, what was it like in that catering truck the Secret Service used to sneak him out of Air Force One? And here's what he said.
Mr. President, can you tell us about your ride on the airport catering truck in Turkey? Why did you need to do that?
Well, it's only up to Secret Service. I just follow what they'd like to do. So I go by Secret Service and the military. They wanted me to go on a different flight, a different plane, equal safety, but they wanted me to do it, so I do it. I do what they say.
Were you worried about a shoulder-fired missile?
I don't worry about anything, to be honest. Whatever it is, you know my attitude, whatever.
And let's go over to the man who knows the president's attitude very well, NBC News Chief White House Correspondent Garrett Haake. Garrett, great to see you. A pretty straight answer from the president, but not really addressing the shoulder-fired missile part. Did we learn anything new about the threat from Iran?
Not a ton here, Gotti. I mean, the reality is the president knew this story had broken overnight. He had all day to think about his responses, and all of them to the questions that he got on this topic seemed to be designed to downplay the threat and essentially change the subject, even trying to argue that even after the switch, he was somehow in more danger aboard that third plane than the press and his staff were on the decoy Air Force One. Listen to this.
I think actually the plane that I flew on was at greater risk.
Why do you say that?
Greater risk because that would be the plane I think that they would be more likely to go for.
The truth of the matter is, Gotti, the Air Force One that the president chose not to take, the baby blue and white, is probably the most sophisticated aircraft on the planet. Why they chose to take this step and why they felt that that plane was not safe enough for the president to be on, I think are still unanswered questions. There's a lot more work to be done on this story.
And speaking of Iran, Trump posted this on Truth Social a little bit earlier. The U.S. has total control over the Strait of Hormuz. I think we will keep it. Number one, is there any truth to that? And number two, what is that going to do to the peace talks process right now?
Well, there's no real mechanism to keep the strait several thousand miles away from the United States. The president is sort of right in the sense that the U.S. does control the waterway. They do have this blockade in place, but it's also beside the point. The traffic through the strait is still incredibly low. Last I checked, there was 14 ships were tracked going through the strait yesterday out of about 130 on average pre-war. The people who use that strait for international commerce, which is a big portion of the global economy, don't feel like it's safe enough to risk their cargoes, and that's still the problem here. Statements like that don't help the negotiations, although I suppose Iran is pretty used to them by now. They probably don't hurt. I think it speaks to the fact that we are still kind of nowhere when it comes to ending this war.
And it looks like the president's Truth Social also is getting sued over this new subscription to alerts before anybody else gets them that they're offering right now. What's going on there?
Yeah, look, there are a lot of layers to this story, too, Gotti. The president uses his Truth Social account essentially as the official megaphone of the White House. That's where his statements go. Oftentimes, if the White House even bothers to send them out later, they just screen grab the Truth Social. Here, the company that runs Truth Social is selling access, perhaps just fractions of a second early, to that information before it hits the regular internet. And there are customers, high-frequency traders, the kind of folks for whom those fractions of a second could mean a lot of money. Now the company that runs Truth Social is being sued by a consortium of different groups who say this is just blanket corruption. This is essentially lining the president's pockets with information from official White House statements. We'll see where this goes, but obviously it's going to draw a lot of attention to the president's social media and the manner by which he chooses to communicate and chooses to try to make money while he's in the White House.
Yeah, and when it comes to the media, I mean, we've got some other White House news. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, she's stepping down from as press secretary, as I understand it. What's the word there?
Yeah, this was a shocker. I mean, there's really no one closer to President Trump other than perhaps his chief of staff in this White House than Caroline Leavitt. She started as an intern in the first Trump administration. She worked for the Trump campaign, then came to the White House. She's the youngest press secretary in history and also the first to give birth while she was press secretary. That's what she says this is all about. She now has two very young kids. She says she wants to spend more time with her family. She called this a bittersweet decision. And both she and the president say she'll stay on as some kind of pivotal outside advisor through the midterms and beyond. We don't know what that'll look like. She's not picking up my calls, but I suppose that's the kind of thing you can do when you are about to become the former White House press secretary.
Oh, it's okay. She'll call you back. She'll call you back, Garrett.
I hope so.
Thank you so much. And turning now to Colombia, where more than 48 hours have passed since that 7.4 magnitude earthquake rocked the country, killing more than 260 people. The destruction is devastating. You can see it here. Collapsed buildings, damaged cars, streets full of rubble. But this rescue effort right now, it is still ongoing. And there are volunteers, firefighters, soldiers working around the clock with little to no sleep to save as many lives as possible. You see them here. They're using their hands to pull people out from under the rubble. some pets as well. And while many remain hopeful against all odds.
¿No has perdido la esperanza?
No, la esperanza no, nadie, ninguno de los que estamos aquí, porque todos estamos aquí por ellos.
And it all comes with such big risks. One rescue worker was rushed to the hospital after falling through the cracks of a collapsed apartment building. And let's bring in George Solis, who's on the ground in Cali, Colombia. George, time is so crucial right now as we get closer to that 72-hour mark. What are you hearing from some of the rescue crews behind you there?
Yeah, Gotti, they are not defeated. Despite the aftershocks, despite the lack of sleep, despite the grueling heat, anytime there is a chance at a sign of life, everything here comes to a roaring stop. You could hear a pin drop. They raise their hands up in the air like this, and they continue to work. It's quiet, but they wait, they wait, they wait, and then the work resumes. Now, I can tell you from being here on the ground, you have a number of family and friends that are at this particular complex that once stood here behind me awaiting word. Any sign of life is a renewed hope, and that is what's motivating so many here yet again tonight. They have been at it for hours, and the second that they thought there was someone in this rubble, Gotti, the work has only ramped up, bringing in the heavy machinery so that they can move these larger slabs that, unfortunately, no amount of manpower can do. Their hope is that they can pull out somebody alive tonight. Unfortunately, this site has provided some disappointment. There have been bodies that have been pulled out, families of loved ones. Again, heartbreaking scenes. We were at a hospital earlier today where the doctor was in tears by the sheer weight of everything that has transpired over these 72 hours. One doctor telling me, we are broken, but we persevere and we continue because that is the task that we are entrusted to do right now. We spoke with one patient who fortunately was not rescued from the rubble, but was saved from a building that was about to collapse. He, of course, wants nothing more than to be out here with fellow people, with fellow citizens to help with the rescue, but it is enough to be home right now to recover and have survived such a harrowing experience. Unfortunately, the number of missing is still in the thousands, and that death toll tragically continues to climb. But as you can see behind me here by the machinery and the manpower, no one here ready to call it quits, Gotti.
Yeah, George Solis, a testament to the spirit of coming together and sticking it through there. I can't believe you've gone from that to some of the hospitals, and I imagine those hospitals are so overwhelmed. What did you see at some of those hospitals and clinics that are having to deal with so many injuries?
Yeah, keep in mind they've had to spread out a number of these patients that were recovered from the rubble because so many here in the southern part of Cali were damaged or entire wings that needed to be closed. So it was an immediate. Now, this area is no stranger to earthquakes, of course, so they have protocols in place, but just being in the wing with some of the people that have been injured, a lot of them, of course, quiet, a lot of them processing, as I mentioned, speaking with that one man who survived. You could see it in his eyes. He's reliving the moment over and over. Fortunately, he had his wife by his side, and together, through that strength and that resolve, he is able to go home at some point and recover from his knee injury. And again, God willing, for so many here, they will pull out another body that will be able to recover and in time tell their story about this experience. And again, it's just, and I apologize for being a little bit louder than normal, just the amount of machinery here. Again, the only time it stops, Scotty, if there is a sign of life. But again, because they believe there is somebody in this rubble, they're just moving as fast as they can because this can be an arduously slow process, but necessary if they are going to find any survivors here. Gotti?
No apologies necessary. That work is of the utmost importance. And I know you're in Cali right now. There have been reports of a lot of damage in some of the more remote areas like Choco. What are you hearing from those areas?
The imagery is quite similar to this, Scott, and you have to forgive me, I had a little bit of difficulty hearing your question there, but the resources have mobilized fast. A very good sign when you see the heavy machinery here on the ground moving some of these concrete slabs. It's a sharp contrast to some of the scenes in Venezuela where so many residents there were upset that they didn't see this type of activity and movement. But make no mistake, even with the resources here on the ground, there is still a great need here, and a great effort to mobilize aid is also happening not only in the U.S. but the surrounding countries here, because everyone right now wants to make sure that the people of Colombia get what they need in this time of need. Gotti?
Yeah, we pray they do. George Solis in Colombia tonight. Thank you so much. And we're learning today that ICE officers plan to start using gloves that almost have these like tasers built into them. With the touch of a button, the gloves can shock somebody on contact. A senior Homeland Security official is telling NBC News that ICE officers will use those gloves to get people to comply with what officers want them to do during an arrest. A DHS official also says that all ICE officers and agents will now have body cameras on them as well. As of today, they're going to be trained on how to use those cameras by the end of the month. NBC News senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley has more.
Tonight, facing criticism over use of force in some arrests, ICE says it has a new tool for officers dealing with non-compliant suspects, spending $20 million to purchase thousands of devices known as the glove, which shock people who do not comply with officers. These demonstration videos released by the manufacturer. A senior DHS official tells NBC News officers will be able to turn on the gloves, also known as zap gloves, at the touch of a button, emitting a shock they say won't leave a mark or hurt the person after they are released, saying it allows officers to avoid using firearms and is better than pepper spray, which can impact bystanders. In a statement to NBC News, DHS says every decision is made with careful consideration and appropriately reviewed to ensure any technology ICE utilizes is consistent with all applicable law enforcement policies and standards. Zap gloves are currently used by corrections officers in several county jails. And it comes as President Trump praises ICE for a surge of deportations.
We have the strongest border in the history of our country. We will always stand with ICE and Border Patrol and law enforcement.
But tonight, immigrant rights advocates are worried.
This is an agency that uses force first and then lies about it and avoids accountability later.
And in another major shift, a senior DHS official tells us all ICE officers now have body cameras. The call for cameras coming after 2 deadly shootings in July. Every officer is expected to be trained in wearing them by the end of the month. But if that footage is part of a federal investigation, as is protocol after a fatal shooting, it could be much longer until that footage is released to the public. Gotti?
Julia, thank you. And in Georgia, investigators are searching for an arsonist who allegedly set fire to a home with 6 people inside. That moment caught on camera. NBC's Jesse Kirsch has more.
Tonight, the search for an alleged arsonist, as new video appears to capture a person dragging a flaming object, briefly dropping it, then tossing it into the garage of a Georgia home. Moments later, the Ring camera video, obtained by our Atlanta affiliate WXIA, shows the individual, their face seemingly covered, swing something else toward the garage before leaving. Soon after, the Lawrenceville home looked like this. Tonight, authorities say that fire was arson, and they want the public's help finding whoever is responsible.
All I heard was orange flames and pop, 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 pop.
Christopher Hammond and his 5 roommates were inside their home early last Wednesday, about 30 miles outside Atlanta. Some were sleeping, but Hammond says he happened to be up later than usual.
I started yelling, guy, for the people upstairs. I started yelling their names.
Authorities say firefighters arrived just before 5:30 a.m., the home partially collapsing with no injuries reported.
Then I start running and I see the fire coming out from the garage.
Another roommate, Dakota Perry, shocked by the Ring video.
And we were just like, that's crazy.
It wasn't just a random fire.
So far, no arrests have been announced. And when we asked officials about the Ring video, they told us the incident is under investigation.
Jesse Kirsch, thank you. And don't go anywhere. Coming up next, we are getting into a dramatic video of the moment cops jumped in to save a choking toddler. That video just ahead. Plus, military-grade GPS jamming might have put pilots at risk in New Mexico. What we're learning from an alarming report that claims federal officials have been ignoring a decade of warnings. And also, if you see this QR code, feel free to scan through. You can chat with us. You just pull out your phone, put it on there, and it should take you behind the scenes, streaming on YouTube, TikTok, or Twitch. Join the conversation happening right now. another hit of the hot water. Thank you, bro. C reverse. Okay, got it. Meister, are you into Star Trek? I was a Star Trek generation kid when I was growing up, for sure. David, wait, what are you guys talking about? No arguing in the chat, please. Let's just be sweet to each other. The news and the world is mad enough as it is. Let's see. Yeah. I see what you guys are talking about. A lot of takes there. Yep. Interesting. And everyone is a bunch of crooks. Francesca, I can see why you say that. And then we've got Mark over there, Mark Owen, doing the thing that he does every single time he drops into the chat. I wonder how the news is from your perspective. Mark, you got to tell us. Oh, let's see. Yes, SML, that's right. It isn't YouTube chat? That's right. It's so funny. Some chats are feistier than other chats. It all depends. That's one of the reasons why I love not having the chats on the screen, because, you know, sometimes you're like, no, everybody's getting along. This is great. And we don't want to ruin that. 30 seconds. All right, so we've got some headlines coming up. We've got that officer saving that kid that was really, really inspiring. There's going to be a helicopter crash. I believe I don't know if you guys saw, but there was a distress call from a boat that was having trouble. Super yacht owned by Mark Zuckerberg close by. They did not respond to that call, even though they were closer. They're saying Mark and his wife were not on board, and they're saying that. Anyway, we'll get into it. Here it comes.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. Here are some other headlines we are watching tonight. There's a lot going on. 2 soldiers are dead after a military helicopter violently crashed in Texas today. Fort Hood officials say the helicopter crashed in a field, did not hit any building or people, but firefighters called to the scene also reported that a wildfire was burning out of control. The fire has not yet been contained, and the crash is still under investigation. And today, Nick Reiner was indicted by a grand jury for the murder of his parents, Rob and Michelle Reiner. Nick Reiner was arrested back in December, hours after the stabbing attack inside the family's home here in Los Angeles. No trial date has been set, but Reiner is due back for a pretrial hearing on September 15th. And new body cam footage shows the moment an officer saved a 3-year-old boy from choking. Watch this. Police in California responding to a 911 call last week from a woman frantically pleading for help. Her toddler was having trouble breathing. The officer quickly jumps into action and uses a suction device to successfully clear his airways, possibly saving the boy's life there. What a hero. And Bumble is removing a key feature from its dating app. Now, men can start conversations with women. The company also is extending the amount of time users have to respond to the first messages from 24 hours to 72 hours. New changes come at a time of slow growth in the online dating sector. And last week, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg's mega yacht was out in Alaskan waters when a small boat nearby called for help after running out of fuel. Apparently, the super yacht did not answer. Thankfully, the Coast Guard says the people on board ended up being rescued by a tour boat instead. Now, a spokesperson for Zuckerberg says that neither he nor his family was on board the yacht at the time. And it was another wild primary night with all kinds of ups and downs. And when it comes to the battle over the future of the Democratic Party, progressives versus moderates, well, there were wins and losses all around. NBC's Ryan Nobles reports.
An upset in Wisconsin with national implications. Establishment-backed candidate David Crowley defeating Democratic Socialist Francesca Hong in the race for governor. The race, a much-needed win for moderate Democrats as the party debates its future, with multiple recent victories from very progressive candidates ahead of the key midterm elections that could shape Congress.
We're going to need someone who can build the necessary coalitions and speak to unity, not necessarily division.
Crowley's victory was narrow. Hong had been leading in the polls, but drawing controversy over some past positions, including calls to abolish the police and to cancel Thanksgiving, though she recently backtracked under pressure. But the Democrats' ideological divide continuing, on display elsewhere in the Midwest, with Minnesota's Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, another progressive, defeating moderate incumbent Angie Craig in a Senate primary.
This campaign was about the many versus the money. Well, guess what? The many just won.
She'll face off in November against former NFL sideline reporter Michelle Tafoya. Meanwhile, in South Carolina, the special election to replace the late Senator Lindsey Graham is headed to a runoff, with Graham's sister Darlene, who currently holds the seat and is backed by President Trump, set to square off against Republican Congressman Ralph Norman in 2 weeks.
I want to thank President Trump. His steadfast support and his complete and total endorsement means so much to me.
Ryan Nobles, NBC News.
Ryan Nobles, thank you so much. And coming up, ownership of the Los Angeles Lakers. Once again, it's an overhaul. What we're learning about a record-breaking multi-billion-dollar deal that hands ownership over to Bob Iger and Josh Kushner. That's next.
3-minute break there.
3-minute break? All right, cool. Sorry, guys. 3 minutes. We got 3 minutes. That's a long time. Mark Owen. Oh, thanks, man. Yes, I feel your pain. No more arguing. That's right, SML. America Growth. Wisconsin has a history of. No, interesting. I did not know that. I'll have to do some reading into history of 48. I didn't catch why Zuckerberg's yacht didn't respond. So the captain of the boat says that by the time they reviewed the distress call from the Coast Guard, there was already help en route. But the question is, there was the distress call, the distress alert that went out from the Coast Guard, but there was also the original distress call that went out from the smaller boat, and the super yacht was closer. It's a very complicated situation, but needless to say, the tour boat operator that went in and actually rescued that boat, they said that even though we're not closer, we are going to be responding, and they said that there's a super yacht close by, and everybody booed. So, Nikki, cancel Thanksgiving? What? How did chat stumble upon that? Billions to buy a sports team is insane. Meister, not just billions, but like over 10 billion. Yeah, what is this going to do to ownership of all leagues? That's the question I have, because I know what happens when houses start going for way more than you thought that they were worth. And all of a sudden, you can't buy a house anywhere because everybody is, I don't know, thinking that their house is worth like so much more. I don't know. It's a weird thing, America's financial system and Japan's financial system, budgeting, similar, MS, interesting. Thomas Rose, Citizens United. That is a very interesting take, and I appreciate that nuance. Is there a maritime law that states ships it's considered, I think it's the law of the seas. It says that if you're closest, you should respond, but it really comes down to, time that the distress call was heard and alerts and all that stuff. So it gets a little bit complicated. Steve Patterson's in the house.
Hello.
Look who it is.
What's up, chat? How's it going?
Get used to seeing this beautiful face. He's back on Friday. He's anchoring.
That's
He's
right.
He's about to steal my show
Baby,
forever.
Let's do this.
All right, I know the camera looks weird. It's a little bit blurry, but it is what it is.
5, 7, 5, 4, 3.
And for the second time in just over a year, the Los Angeles Lakers have been sold, this time for a record-breaking $12.5 billion. And now, one of the NBA's marquee teams is going to be owned by former Disney CEO Bob Iger, along with billionaire Josh Kushner. While the sale still has to be approved by the NBA's Board of Governors, some of the Lakers are already speaking out. Superstar Luka Doncic tweeting out about the sale, saying, "I know that no matter what, there is no limit to the potential of this iconic franchise. I look forward to meeting Josh and Bob so we can get to work building something special in LA together." Let's bring in Steve Patterson to join us and explain a little bit more about how $12 billion works. Businessman Mark Walters just bought this team for like $10 billion. last year, turns it around, puts another $2 billion on it. Is this a surprise? And especially when you're looking at like who's on the other end of this, Iger and Kushner?
Yeah, it's an absolute shock. First of all, the fact that nobody knew about this, right? We're talking about $12.5 billion. The sports world didn't know this is happening. The business world didn't know this is happening. We didn't know until this morning, and then all the announcements came out. So the fact that this was sort of a hidden thing is ridiculous. Iger and Kushner have, for a long time, we're looking for a team. There are all these supposed expansion teams they're about to drop. Seattle is looking at one. Las Vegas is looking at one. They were pretty far ahead on the Vegas deal. And then all of a sudden, and we don't necessarily know how, the opportunity came up to own the LA Lakers. And they're like, this is an offer we can't refuse. We're going to make this guy an offer he can't refuse, which was to the tune, $12.5 billion. The shocking thing also is that obviously we just went through this, right? This guy just bought this franchise last year for $10 billion. So a lot of people are thinking this is kind of a flip. He makes $2.5 billion off of the sale. He wipes his hands and now he's got a little slush fund.
A flip with no reno. I mean, like, I know what happens when houses all of a sudden start going for way more than, all of a sudden they were a couple of years ago. And then the next thing you know, the whole street, you can't buy a house on that street. Is that how franchises work? Like, are we going to see crazy inflation when it comes to how much these leagues are valuing teams?
That's exactly right. It's like supply and demand, just like anything else, right? So if you buy, like you said, this is why I have a realtor and an agent, because I'm bad at this stuff.
There's no Zillow of teams, by the way.
Yes, there should be. Actually, so I did. I looked it up. I was like, what's the valuation of all these franchises? And I think the way to look at it is, yes, because this is a new baseline, so like they've made a new ceiling. It's almost like a new precedent has been set. Because of that, the valuation for all the other teams will raise up. But because you're doing like a house analogy, you got to think about it in neighborhoods, right? This is a very high value neighborhood. Right. We're talking the Knicks, we're talking the Lakers, we're talking the Golden State Warriors. Those teams, of course, will go up. If you're talking about, the Memphis Grizzlies, it may not have as much of an impact.
I mean, LA real estate and Memphis real estate, they're both hot right now.
They're both hot,
Memphis would say, at least.
That's true. No shade on Memphis.
Yeah, no shade on the Grizzlies out there. Also, though, like Walters, he's under investigation by the feds, right? We don't know what's happening there. He definitely tacked on an extra couple of bill. But did that play into the decision to sell like this?
Yeah, so we put the Wall Street reporting on the screen there. The Wall Street Journal did some reporting. They found, and NBC News has now found, that there is an SEC as well as the state's attorney, U.S. attorney, I should say, in Manhattan, investigating for basically what amounts to insurance fraud. Look, there was some money, $21 billion, so I shouldn't say some money, that was moved around in some of his companies without maybe meeting the proper regulatory disclosures. And so that investigation, on top of the fact that that was just 72 hours ago, and now this sale happens, a lot of people, fans, and some analysts and some experts are sort of trying to connect the two. Like, if there's smoke, there's fire. We're not making that connection, but it is wild and weird that this all happens sort of all close together.
We'll see what the governors do, right? League governors. Steve Patterson, really appreciate you, man. Thanks so much. And there was a very, very concerning plane crash that happened in New Mexico. It killed 4 people, and it is causing all kinds of concerns, namely, how dangerous is military testing of GPS jamming for civilian planes that are flying nearby here in the United States? Well, our affiliate in Albuquerque, KOB-TV, is investigating, and here is Hawker Vanguard.
On the night of May 14th, pilots Keelan Clark and Ali Kassara and flight nurses Sarah Clark and Jamie Novick were flying an air ambulance from Roswell to Ruidoso. According to the NTSB, their plane temporarily lost GPS signal due to jamming before crashing into Capitan Peak, killing everyone on board.
If somehow they can't use their GPS, some pilots are at a loss because they really have become so reliant on the technology that they don't know how to navigate using VORs, ILS, anything like that. Pilotage, dead reckoning.
Lauren Chavez is a pilot instructor based in Albuquerque with decades of experience. She's dealt with GPS jamming firsthand while flying in southern New Mexico.
And it showed that I was somewhere where I wasn't. And once I recognized it wasn't moving, I might have checked the onboard GPS, called air traffic control, told them the GPS wasn't working.
At White Sands Missile Range outside Alamogordo, the military is allowed to disrupt GPS signals to evaluate classified technology. This Department of Defense video explains how.
Electronic warfare is used to block the reception of authentic signal traffic and to mimic or spoof legitimate signals in order to manipulate data from sources such as global navigation satellite systems.
The Army is required to alert the FAA, who then issues what's called a NOTAM, or Notice to Airmen, when it jams GPS in the airspace around White Sands Missile Range. The NTSB's preliminary report on the Ruidoso crash confirmed the FAA issued a warning to pilots that night, but federal records show that doesn't always happen.
I've seen NOTAMs. I've also experienced GPS outages where there were no NOTAMs.
Contact Tower 119.9.
4 Investigates uncovered more than 70 federal safety reports filed by pilots, air traffic controllers, and dispatchers warning about the problems created by GPS jamming. Going back a decade, at least a dozen of them show pilots flew in airspace without the required NOTAM. Even when the military filed a warning, air traffic controllers reported dangerous flying conditions.
The GPS jamming at White Sands was affecting the safety of flight of the aircraft to the point to where they couldn't navigate safely.
In other reports, frustrated controllers at Albuquerque Center said operations managers turned a blind eye to aircraft in trouble.
I asked the controller in charge to stop buzzer and was blown off and was told, "We're not doing that. Refusing to stop buzzer is commonplace at Albuquerque Center."
This FAA order explains Albuquerque Center has a direct line to NORAD, which can request the Army immediately pause jamming, called a stop buzzer. The safety reports we uncovered say some managers are reluctant to use it.
070, Horizon 153.
The night of the Ruidoso crash, the stop buzzer worked. For just a few minutes, the crew knew where they were. Then, an operations supervisor here at Albuquerque Center told the military it could resume jamming, just as the pilots were on approach, under a moonless sky with a completely pitch-black mountain directly in front of them. Those federal reports show just 1 year before the air ambulance crash, a commercial flight on approach to the Sunport described losing their GPS near mountains, writing, "It was nighttime with no significant moonlight. Terrain features were not visually distinguishable, and the environment appeared as a black void."
You said there was also some GPS issues out this way?
The same night of the crash, the NTSB says at least 3 other aircraft radioed about lost GPS.
Center American 3046 also, just to pass along, we've been getting those continuous anomalies.
When 4 Investigates asked White Sands Missile Range how real-time decisions get made about jamming when civilian aircraft are in the area, the military escalated our request to the Pentagon. An Army spokesperson responded only about the crash, saying in part, the Army is aware of the NTSB preliminary report, but cannot comment while the investigation is active. For close to a decade, federal records show air traffic controllers, pilots, and dispatchers tried to get someone to recognize the pattern of close calls in the GPS-jammed skies over New Mexico.
Aviation, they say, is not terribly difficult, but it can be terribly unforgiving.
When the margin for error can mean life or death.
Because in aviation, one mistake might be your last.
And we did lose GPS.
Quiet warnings are now coming through, loud and clear.
And let's bring in Hawker Vanguard with a little bit more reporting on this. Hawker, great to see you. This is raising so many questions, and I know the FAA is still investigating the crash. So many questions still being asked inside of the Pentagon right now. But if and when something like this happens and the military sends out notices, do all civilian pilots know what to do if their GPS suddenly goes down?
Well, thanks for having me, Gotti. First of all, absolutely. Everybody gets the NOTAM. Everybody knows that it's going to happen. And especially if you're flying through southern New Mexico often, you would know what's kind of in your purview there. That's kind of having situational awareness. And as part of being a pilot, you have to have situational awareness with what's around you. So on the aircraft, and it doesn't matter how basic your aircraft is, you have something called a VOR and a DME. You can think of a VOR as kind of like a compass. That's going to give you a bearing and a direction. Now, something you might not have heard of before is a DME, which stands for Distance Measuring Equipment, and that can give you a reading as to distance from how far a VOR station you are. So if I was a pilot, and I am, and I ran into this type of situation, I would immediately pull out a sectional chart or pull out ForeFlight on my iPad, and I would try to figure out where my closest VOR is that I could tune into, and from there I could kind of have an idea of where I was. Now, the pilots in the crash that we're talking about here with the air ambulance, you have to keep in mind, and Gotti, you know from being a New Mexican yourself, it is pitch black in southern New Mexico. In some of those unpopulated areas, these pilots were faced with a completely moonless night, so there was no way for them to really immediately be able to know where they were, and the GPS jamming only added to that confusion.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens from here on out. But again, a good reminder to all pilots out there that dead reckoning is so very important. Hawker Vanguard, incredible reporting. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And coming up, what would be a biological warfare scenario? And we're going to get into the details on the what ifs. Think about a deadly pathogen that is weaponized. We're talking to the author who writes about a scenario like that in a brand new book that is absolutely terrifying. That's coming up next. All right, tonight for the heaviest of topics in the future of warfare. What if the end of civilization is not nuclear, but biological? What if it's not a missile we should be scared of, but a pathogen? That is the hypothetical that investigative journalist and friend of the show, Annie Jacobson, lays out in her new book, A Biological Warfare or War, a Scenario. And it moves really like a ticking clock. Here's how she lays it out. She says, U.S. intel is in a panic after satellites pick up this explosion at a bio-research facility out in Siberia, a site that has been linked to Russia's most secretive biological research. It's had problems actually in the past. And tonight, officials are desperately trying to answer one question in this book. Did a dangerous pathogen escape? It definitely got our attention. Joining us now is Annie Jacobson to talk about this. Annie, the scenario here, it is wild. The research here is so illuminating. And I got to say, I'm reading this as we're covering like the latest outbreaks of salmonella and cyclospora, and I know that those are very different than the man-made disaster that you write about. But there are some overlaps when it comes to the confusion. How do we not have answers? Where are the gaps when it comes to surveillance? You're also seeing all this play out. You've researched all of this. How do you see today's detection of any sort of disease or virus that's spreading?
You know, we have a multi-billion-dollar system set up for precisely that, a syndromic surveillance system. CDC is supposed to be getting real-time reporting. As I show you in this book, it all fails miserably. We also saw that happen in COVID. And so we now know a biological catastrophe is not theoretical. It could happen. Even though this book is terrifying, and there's a spoiler alert at the beginning that it ends in dystopia, the point is to really have it be a cautionary tale.
It's a cautionary tale, and it's also happening while we're seeing what's happening on Capitol Hill with Dr. Fauci. We've got this grilling of Fauci. It's a Rorschach test, really, for so many people that are seeing this, that are remembering what happened with COVID and still wondering about what happened in Wuhan. And in this book, there's a distrust that is almost as powerful as the pathogen, right? That's still here. That's still among us, and I don't see an antidote to that.
I mean, you're absolutely right. I think it's a huge problem that the fear, the distrust of science, the distrust of our public health officials, the confusion over all of that has just ratcheted up this threat. You know, I was astonished after the Senate hearings with Dr. Fauci that even President Biden's COVID director, Dr. Jha, switched his position and said a lab leak out of Wuhan was plausible. And so, or actually he said it was probable. And so that's precisely why I choose a lab leak, because I want people to understand, as I learned, as I was talking with all these subject matter experts, that in biological war, it's not just a conventional attack. It is actually an accident or an incident that is just as dangerous to all of us. And an accident or an incident means a lab leak.
A lab leak. And, you know, gain of function, that is something that we are all familiar with. COVID-19, coronavirus, gain of function. They're seared into our brain. And yet gain of function is something that so many people pretend like they know what that means. And they have no idea. And I've covered it for a long time. I kind of knew what it meant until I read your book. And there's a very direct definition that you give. Health officials kind of tiptoe around what gain of function means because of the nature of gain of function. And I can see why it might be necessary, but give it to us straight. What does gain of function actually mean?
Gain of function, okay, so it's another way of saying genetic modification, but really easy to understand. And I'm with you that it's kind of like, what is that? It's such a mysterious term. Well, it's literally giving a pathogen, allowing it to gain more function. The function
allowing a virus to become more powerful.
Well, a couple things, and it's also a virus or a bacteria, that's a pathogen. It can become more virulent, it's a way of saying it's more deadly. It can have greater transmissibility. So you and I speaking here, if something was airborne between us, that is a pandemic potential pathogen, as opposed to something that is transferred if you touch it or by contact. Airborne is the nightmare scenario. Finally, what gain of function does is it can take away, with a very simple tweak, it can take away an existing medical countermeasure, like an antibiotic, like a vaccine. That's where you're really talking nightmare scenario.
Well, and to one up the nightmare that you've just laid out, that you do in your book, also tweak the virus, so tweak the pathogen, so that people become euphoric when they go out and party and then spread it. And that is something that humans have actually thought of, and there is research into that, right?
You're exactly right. You know what I try to do in this book, because it reads like science fiction, but it is science fact. All of it is based in actual, real, historical situations that the Pentagon or public health officials have dealt with. And what you're talking about there, when I learned from a subject matter expert who was a former bacteriologist at USAMRIID, which is the Defense Department's only BSL-4 lab, he told me that Soviet biological weapons engineers We're trying to genetically modify a pathogen, a plague pathogen, so that it had euphoria on the front end. You might say, euphoria, what would that do? Think about it. If you get really sick with something, you're going to go home, you're going to get in bed, you're going to get under the covers, you're not going to infect as many people. If you have euphoria, you're going to feel like you want to go out and socialize. You might even wind up at a disco, and that is precisely where the scenario
euphoric
begins.
patient zero is absolutely terrifying. And again, things go south from there in your book. I got to say, you know, we cover a lot of the future of everything, the future of warfare. And I talked to a lot of names that have told me off the record, you know, I ask them, hey, aren't you worried about like killer robots? You guys are working on this killer robot stuff like AI. And they're like, no, like not even in the top 10. We're worried about biological warfare because of the asymmetry there and because it's so cheap to do, especially with the breakthroughs that we're seeing with AI. So they're not worried about rogue AI. They're worried about people with a little bit of understanding using AI to do something like that. Yeah. Are they off base?
Not at all. You're talking about AI-enabled bio. That is incredibly dangerous. I just use Mother Nature's pathogen tweaked because I want you to see how dangerous it is without AI. But because of the AI scenarios, you know, if you look at a Defense Department threat spectrum, I have a copy of one in the book, Unclassified. Nuclear weapons are the most destructive. No one would deny that. Biological weapons present the greatest overall threat for precisely what you're talking about. The barrier for entry is so incredibly low. You don't need nuclear command and control. You don't need fissile material. You don't need a submarine, a B-2 bomber.
Or a state behind you.
You need a computer and a nefarious mind.
There is something, you know, I was doing some research. I was researching questions to ask you about how to prepare for something like this. What type of gas masks would you use? All those things. I was plugging it into AI. I now use up all of them, right? And all of a sudden, something weird started to happen. They started to shut me down. And they're like, you know, line of questioning, we can't respond. Something went wrong, we can't respond. And it does look like there is some sort of mechanism at play. And again, like this is just cursory here. But does it seem like the AI companies know the risks? Is enough being done to maybe curtail people's access to things that would allow something like this to be done relatively easily?
I mean, it's such an important question, and the answer, unfortunately, is yes and no. I had my own experience with that. I asked ChatGPT to help me identify where a strategic national stockpile is located right here in LA. Now, that's classified information. I knew it was. I wanted to see if I could make the AI tell me, and I used a lot of nomenclature, keywords, nothing classified, and I was able to make the AI tell me. Now, I mentioned that to some colleagues who knew Sam Altman. It resulted in a conversation between Sam Altman and I to get to the heart of your question. After I told Sam Altman what I was able to make that product to do, the ability to do it went away. The point is the AI CEOs don't know what they don't know until someone tells them. That's incredibly dangerous when you think, again, of bad actors out there.
Yeah, this is a book for everybody, and in particular, this is a book for anybody that has their hands on the world-changing technology of today, biological war. Again, if you are working in cutting-edge frontier AI, please read this. Annie Jacobson, really a pleasure to talk. Not a pleasure to talk to you. It's existential when we see you, but again,
it always is.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's so important. Thank you very
so
much. And still to come, parts of Europe captivated by the sky after a total solar eclipse turned the daytime dark for just a moment. And that's coming up just ahead. But first, you got to see this. Over in Arkansas, a high school football player was surprised to see a 2-foot-long cottonmouth snake hiding in his helmet during practice. And yes, those are extremely venomous. The snake has been hanging outside the helmet for almost an hour before the football player felt something moving. So the next time you put something on your head, like, give it a shake first. We'll be right back.